Right, and welcome back. Still Breakfast Central. I hope you're enjoying the conversation this morning, the program, because the conversation is about to begin. But to join us at News Central TV is where to be on Instagram, Twitter, and indeed on Facebook. Right about now, we're talking rail.
In 2011, Nigeria's government started massive rail projects across the country. This included linking the nation's seaports and airports with rail services. Now, the then Minister of Transportation, Idris Umar, that said that the government would develop new rail lines with the involvement of the private sector through the public-private partnership arrangement. 10 years on, what progress has been made?
That is the big central question, you have to say. Now, it was on December the 9th last year, 2020, that construction actually commenced on the Lagos-Ibadan rail line. This is the first part of the new 2,733-kilometer Lagos-Kano standard gauge line, with the total cost pegged at about $11.117 billion. Now, during a recent inspection of the rail construction across the country, the current Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, where he expressed his displeasure with the Chinese contractors for slowing down the pace of work. Now,
let's now bring in our Abuja Bureau Chief, that's Katherine Useh, who's been following the progress of railway constructions across the country. Welcome to Breakfast Central, Katherine. Good to see you.
Morning, Felicity.
So what's the latest with the construction of the railway lines across the country?
Okay, I think we should go back memory lane because you got some of the dates wrong. Actually, the rail modernization project started under the former President Olusegun Obasanjo. There was an ambitious plan to link Abuja, the nation's federal capital, to Kaduna. But because the federal government was in a hurry, due diligence was not made. So Obasanjo was president between 1999 and 2007. So he even went ahead to award the contract for the Abuja-Kaduna rail project. But after Obasanjo left office, his predecessor, the late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, came on board. He looked at the rail project and admitted that this was not diligently done. First of all, the federal government did not have enough funds to complete the project. Secondly, there was no engineering design that had been done before the contract was awarded. So what did he do? He terminated the contract and put it on suspension. President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua did not complete his term. He died before he left office, and President Goodluck Jonathan came on board. And because President Goodluck Jonathan wanted to complete the Abuja-Kaduna rail project, he went to China, took a loan of about $500 million, and did due diligence and commenced the Abuja-Kaduna rail project. Unfortunately, he did not complete it fully by the time he was leaving office. That project was between 70 to 80% completed. Now, so when President Muhammadu Buhari came on board, he embarked on an ambitious rail modernization project and said, okay, what we are going to do is the first thing we are going to do is we're going to complete the Abuja-Kaduna rail project. And that was what he did. He tried to complete the Abuja-Kaduna rail project. And because he had a minister, the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, who while he was governor, remember that Amechi has started the Port Harcourt monorail, but could not complete it at the end of his tenure. So when he came on board as the Minister of Transportation, he said that he was going to pursue rail as an agenda for the current administration.
Yes. Now that you mentioned the minister,
if we leave you, Amadi will give us that because he's been following this a long time.
And he took us back from memory lane. So we're now, where we are right now. The minister you talked about, Rotimi Amechi, he seemed quite upset with the pace of work on the part of the Chinese and the contractors. Now, this is not the first delay. What's the latest story behind the delays right now on these constructions?
Okay, the rail projects were meant to have been completed last year. But because of COVID, everything, there was a lockdown, everything went on suspension. Even after the lockdown, the China Engineering Construction Corporation handling the handling the Lagos Ibadan rail project had to reduce their staff from, I think, about over 1,000 to barely about 100. And within the Lagos Kaduna, the rail corridor, Lagos Ibadan rail corridor, there were over about 10 train terminals. If you start counting from Apapa, yes, and you go down to Ebute Meta, you go down to Iju, you go down, you get to Kajola, Papalanto, and the rest, and you now finally get to Ibadan.
Yeah.
There are about 10 train terminals. So naturally, there was a delay. But the minister had been putting pressure that the CCEC must complete the project so that it can be commissioned. Remember also that the contract was, because of the problem in Lagos, the truck problem in Lagos, the contract had to be redesigned. Instead of terminating at the Apapa train station, the federal government thought it wise to see that the rail project moved into the Apapa and Tinkan ports. So the construction works between Apapa and Ibadan, that is via Abeokuta, has already been completed.
All right.
It's just the minor works at the train station, putting the fittings, putting the electrical appliances, putting the telecommunication equipment.
Amadine, in the interest of time, I'll see if you can make your responses as concise as possible. Let me ask you this. You've been following this project for quite a while. What is your assessment of the level of work that has been done? Is it commensurate to the amount of money that has been pumped into this project?
Yes, I think it will be fair. It will be fair to say that, to commend the federal government and to commend the CCEC, because Nigeria is not like any other country. We have the population. So when you are redesigning a rail project, you have to pass as many communities as possible.
Okay.
Then the contract for the Lagos Kano rail project includes 2 universities, 2 transport in Daura, that is the entire corner, one in Daura and also another one in Ubima, Lagos State. So I will be fair to say that due diligence has been done to the monies that has been received. The train services have already started along the Lagos-Ibadan rail corridor.
All right, Amadine, just stay on the line. Yes, because you've been following this story, and we want to continue this discussion. So stay on the line. We still have right now with us on Breakfast, Katherine Useh, a YouTuber who has been traveling and documenting her trips with these rail services that Amadine has talked about. Kate, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Central.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
All right.
All right, let's start with the process of getting the ticket before getting on board the train. How did that go?
Okay, so from the Ebute Meta train station, you need to have a valid form of identification first before you can purchase the ticket. And the ticket for the regular ticket was 2,500, while they have that of VIP. They have that of the regular ticket was what I purchased, and it was 2,500. But you need a valid form of identification for you to purchase a ticket.
So tell us about the train trip itself. What were your impressions of the services? From where did you start and where did you disembark? And what stops did you make along the way?
Okay, the only stop that we made along the way was at Abeokuta, but we started from the Ebute Meta train station, which is Mobolaji Johnson train station. Okay. That's where we started from, and it was a very smooth ride. The ACs were working very well. We had extension. We had sockets where we could charge our phones. There were security on board. At some point, a couple of passengers because we got talking and they were like, oh, don't we have like security on board? What if something happens on the road? You know, we had security on board. There were nurses on board, you know, and it was a very smooth ride. I would choose taking train to Ibadan than traveling by road, like taking
You
cars.
sound like you certainly enjoyed yourself. How many cities have you been using the trail and the train so far?
What?
How many cities have you been to using the train?
Oh, I've only been to Ibadan using the train. That was
Okay.
my very first train ride experience in Nigeria. I haven't
Wow.
traveled out of Nigeria, but that was my very first train ride, and I had an amazing time. And that was the reason why I decided to document
Okay.
my experience.
Speaking about the experience, which means you've traveled along the Lagos-Ibadan rail line. Time check in terms of, you know, the destination, you know, time and money, as they say.
Was 2 hours 40 minutes.
Oh.
A couple of people on board complained. You know, if you travel with regular buses or private cars, you should get to Ibadan in an hour 30 minutes or so. But we spent about 2 hours.
Oh.
But to be honest, I did not even feel it because I enjoyed my ride. It was a very good ride.
Oh.
Okay,
You know,
so
for
you
someone like me, a content creator, I was editing videos on board, so I enjoyed my ride.
And you're documenting your travels along the way too.
I was just going to ask you quickly, if you can, in 30 seconds, what do you think needs to be improved with the train service so far?
A couple of people complained about not having food on board. I feel like they should have like snacks or something on board because we're hungry, you know. So I think they should take that on board. And we were told that the speed would be improved on. So I'm looking forward to that happening soon. They make promises a couple of times and they don't keep it, but I hope that
well, Catherine, because we're actually talking with our Abuja correspondent, Amadou Uyo, on this side, who's also been following the story, you know, construction about rail. And personally, for me, I'm looking for the day where I can just right now leave this program, end up in Ibadan in the next an hour, and like, Felicity, I'm here, you know, Breakfast Central continues, you know, that kind of thing. For you, traveling through rail in Nigeria from Lagos to Ibadan, was it more of an excursion or commercial travel? Because where do you feel we are right now in terms of the construction and where we are in terms of the services? Is this still I traveled through train, or I traveled via train? It's a commute, it's not a luxury. It's normal, like jumping bus. Shouldn't that be the case right now?
That should be the case, but to be honest, that's not really the case. Because, okay, for instance, where I work, my 9 to 5 job, my boss said he was traveling to Ibadan, and I was suggesting him taking the train to Ibadan. And he's like, Katherine, you're traveling for fun. For me, I'm traveling for work. And you know, there are times that they board. And you know, if you're traveling to Ibadan for a particular purpose, you might not be able to meet up with their own timelines.
All right.
Understand?
Speaking about timelines, Catherine, okay, so we're about to take a stop. We're not disembarking, so don't disembark yet. This train called Breakfast Central will take a break right now, and we still have Amadou Uyo all the way from Abuja. When we come back, we'll continue our rail line discussion right here on Breakfast Central. Stay with us.
It's a good feeling to know you're still with us on Breakfast Central, and it means we're doing something right. Thank you for staying with us. We still have Katherine and Amadine. Before we let Katherine go, I'd like to ask quickly, Katherine, would you recommend train travel for Nigerians? I mean, some persons are skeptical, and there's been fears about possible robbery en route certain tracks. Would you recommend train travel?
I would definitely recommend train travel because there's security on board. So, like, Nigerians don't need to be scared because there are security operatives on board to ensure that everyone is safe,
Okay,
you know.
all right.
And I think those measures have been put in place just to, you know, give people a form of comfort
Confidence.
or
All right.
security, like know that you're secure, you know. Yeah.
All right, we hope to watch more of your exploits with the trains across Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you very much, Katherine Useh, who's clearly a YouTuber and documenting her travels via train in Nigeria. So, Ahmadine, I'm sure you followed the discussion with Katherine, who clearly has gone through the process of these train trips. What's your reaction to that before we let you go, Ahmadine?
Okay, I'd like to just highlight on 2 points she made. I traveled to Ibadan 3 days ago, precisely on Saturday, from Lagos to Ibadan via Abeokuta and back to Lagos. Unlike Catherine's trip, when I was going, I had fried rice and chicken. When I was coming back, I don't joke with my stomach. I had amala on board when I was coming back. Amala with very wonderful. I opted for okra soup, and it was wonderful. So I believe that the meal sessions will soon be extended.
Yeah.
And also talking about the time. Now, the idea behind the trip is that when the operations kickstart, because there are several places where they already train operations. Also, the Itakpe-Warri corridor is already ferrying passengers from Warri in the south to Itakpe, which is in Kogi State. That also has some form of train services. The idea is that for those who want to work with time, there will be particular trains, because there will be particular trains that will run at definitive time.
All right, Ahmadine, sorry to interject, but we're almost out of time. And if you can say this in 20 seconds, I'll be very grateful. The question is, do you anticipate a completion date this year? Because it seems this thing is dragging. How soon will all the rail projects be completed?
Now, I would like to quote the words from the Minister of Transport.
Okay. Unfortunately, we lost him. Thank you in absentia, Ahmadine.
All right, Ahmadine. All right. So thank you very much, Ahmadine. Thank you very much, Katherine. So at least both of them have had the train experience. We are going to have our own, you know, VIP, first class. Okay.
He wants to form sexy on national TV. If I catch you,
yeah.
We'll go on a break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.